Hey folks, back in the reserve again. One thing that I get asked a lot as a technique coach, I've been doing it for a while now, is about sighting, looking, where to look, what to look at while you're out trail running. And as a beginner, I know that can be really daunting and really hard. I've been in many races where I've watched people come across a technical area and they nearly stop and then place their feet through the section. One of the things that we regularly do as trail runners is we break ourselves, and that's where, as in, we stop on our legs. We try and put our legs out to stop, and this can do a number of things. It slows us down, obviously, but one of the things it does do is it shock loads the body. So one of the suggestions I have, and one of the techniques that I work through in a few of my technique sessions, is sighting. So looking and looking ahead. The one thing that we regularly do is we look directly below our feet where we're placing our feet. And when you're unsure and you're beginning, and that's probably a great thing to do because you don't want to be tripping over everything, we need to start to move away from that. We need to use our peripheral vision and our memory. And you'll be amazed how much you memorize as you're running as well. So one of the things I regularly do is I use what I call the flicking technique. And that is where, generally speaking, when you're running a trail, we should be looking about that 5 to 10 steps ahead of ourselves all the time. Now the flicking comes in because we're looking at that position 5 to 10 steps ahead and we're flicking back to our feet and out again. Now if you watch the front of a field in an elite race, most of the guys have got their head up, they're looking forward in that really nice position and they're running fast. They're memorizing everything that's coming at them with their peripheral vision and running over it. Very rarely are they looking directly in front of them. Because you look down, you tend to lean forward and your body posture changes. You'll brake and you'll also want to fall forward. That's where we stumble, it's where we trip. Okay, so if we can lift our head up and we're looking forward and we're just moving either our head or our eyes up and down regularly, we can stop the body moving forward and tripping over. So I normally suggest, especially with beginners, the best thing to do is take 3 or 4 steps looking where you normally do and just flick up for a little bit, that 5, 10 steps ahead of you, flick back again. Until you can get comfortable with doing that, you don't have to do it all the time, just do it irregularly during a run, training run. Once you become comfortable with that, you can do it the opposite way around. You can focus out in front of you and flick down. Flick down with your eyes and just keep moving back and forward. And eventually you'll become comfortable with looking ahead, until it's really technical and you've got to watch where you're putting your foot. There's a couple of things with technical terrain. One of them is that I always suggest that when you come to a small area that's quite technical, and you regularly, and some people do this, will roll ankles. And it is a common trait with a lot of trail runners, they roll ankles. Now this is for an outward roll, where the ankle rolls from the inside to the outside. You're rolling over your ankle. When you're doing this, about 80% of the time, you'll find it's because you are either dead straight with your feet or you're slightly pigeon-toed. If you're slightly pigeon-toed, and that's not an issue, running normally on the road, it doesn't cause any issues. But on technical trail, if you are slightly turned in, you'll have a tendency to roll the ankle regularly. So consciously, when you've got a chance on a nice flat area that doesn't have too much technicality, flat gravel area, just take a glance down, look where your feet are pointing while you're running. Because a lot of people aren't aware of what's happening below their hips. Just take a glance down as you're running along, as long as you know it's safe to do so. And if your toes are slightly in, you'll have to remember you're that person. When you get to that technical bit, try and splay out a little bit. Even practice it on the gravel road is a great tip as well. That little bit of flare with the feet out stops the foot from rolling. It can't roll. A long-term trail runner reminded me that a long time ago. It was only about 6 months ago, I started tripping in a race. He was right behind me and he said to me, "Are you toeing out?" Instantly I started to toe out and stopped rolling my ankles. It's a good little tip straight up for those that regularly roll ankles. If you're toeing in, you'll roll. Okay, if you're rolling inward, that's a completely different scenario. You need to point the toes a little bit straighter and strengthen your ankles. Whole other talk, that one. But one of the things that we need to do is do that sighting, look for rocks and look where we're treading. One of the things that we normally talk about is where to tread, and people ask us this all the time. There are those that are quite confident to tread on top of rocks. When you find a nice rock that's dry on top, tread on top of it, not a problem, as long as you've got the grip on your shoe and you're confident with it. If you're not, you're looking for that nice solid bit of ground underneath. Anyway, I won't go into that too much, but the big one for me is the sighting, being able to move back and forward between out and in front of you. Get the head up and get moving forward. Anyway, hope that little tip helps. Thanks, guys.